One.
Welcome to Moms on the Ground. My name is Angela and I'll be your host for today. I'm sitting next to the lovely Melissa. So what are we going to talk about today? Fill me in.
First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And I'm so sorry it's been so long since we've connected with you guys. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to cover. I guess today we're going to talk about the
school board.
The school board. So Capistrano Unified School Board and a meeting that took place on October 18th.
Yes. So. Seems like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
You know, we're moms and it takes time in our busy schedules to
pull this together. We've got jackhammers going on in the background. Yes. We've got the holidays and birthdays.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you to your husband for helping us with the sound and everything else. Woohoo!
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, there's been a lot of content. There's been a lot of stuff that we've been really anxious to tell the moms about because it's really important. It's important for them to know. So,
and that's what we're here for.
Yep. So do you want me to just...
Yeah, let's just dive right in. Okay. So October 18th was a school board meeting. Mm-hmm. It was televised and advertised a lot differently than it should have been.
True. So October 18th, there was a parental notification policy that was put on the agenda, and it was written by Trustee Lisa Davis.
Yeah.
And we really encouraged a lot of parents to come to support the policy, because it was basically saying that, you know, if something was going on with your kid psychologically, in any way, anything with your kid, that you should be notified, which, you know, that's the place of the parent, right?
Right. Being bullied, having mental challenges, talks of suicide, like that's what was in the actual bill.
That was in the actual policy. Yeah,
yes.
That was in the policy. But somehow it got this narrative around it that it was a anti-LGBTQ
call out.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Is that the word that they used?
They said that it was a forced outing policy. This was the narrative that was created about it. And, you know, the thing that's baffling is if you have children, as you know, it's kind of just like mind blowing that we even have to have this discussion, because, you know, when you're the parent, like you're the decision maker, you know, with school age children for sure, you know? And so this was put on the agenda. And what happened was, you know, we really encouraged parents to show up to support it. And they came out in force. There were hundreds and hundreds of parents there. But the problem was they didn't get to speak. And the reason that happened was because we discovered later in public records requests, we can see coordination between board trustees and teachers in the district to recruit children to come to speak out against the policy. So there's a rule, board policy 9323, that says that the kids get priority to speak at the meetings. And so what we found in the public records in all of these communications were that the intent was to get so many kids to speak that the public would be blocked out.
Right.
And so that's actually a violation of the Brown Act, because that's preventing the public from being part of the deliberative process and the decision-making process. So it's actually illegal. And so, you know, in another future podcast, we want to teach you guys how to teach the parents how to request public records, because there's so much that can be found in them. I mean, it's mind blowing, the stuff that we've come across.
Even before that, really what we need to encourage our parents to do is read the actual policies that are being up for discussion, because I think that that's where a lot of disconnect is happening, because what you hear, you know, from the schools or on the media is that maybe the policy says one thing when in fact the policy doesn't say that at all. And if I remember correctly, a lot of the kids that spoke were speaking out about things that really weren't pertinent to the actual policy as it was written.
Which is what prompted me to get the public records, because I was like, what are they talking about? Did they read this policy? Like, why are they so like angry? And why are they why are they saying all these things? Like if you read this policy, what they were speaking to was not anything near what the policy said.
That's
so,
right.
Someone had given them words, someone had put things in their heads, and we see that in the records, and we'll be showing you those records. And, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast is to try to just get people to understand. We're going to be providing you a lot of proof, evidence, of what we're finding. So, I think what people tend to do is they want to somewhat be in a little bit of denial about things that are taking place. And so the idea is to kind of be able to have discussions so that we can so that they're like informative discussions, so that we can bring people out of denial, because people,
then you're fact-based,
and people can be really dismissive. Like somebody will, like in this case with this parental notification policy, they said, oh, it's a forced outing policy. And, that was the story that it became. And so, a lot of parents may have also taken that
stance. They were thinking that was what the policy was about, when in fact it wasn't, which then all of these kids then spoke really to defend or to go against a policy that wasn't being presented anyhow, but they took up all of the time. So, and that was the thing that, I felt horrible, because I had encouraged so many parents to come to the meeting. We had people who were there. I have a friend who's a brain health expert, and she, came to speak, and people got there as early as 3 p.m. and, it went till 10 or 11, so people showed up early in order to speak on behalf of their children, and they were blocked out, and they were prevented from getting an opportunity to be heard by the board. And it seemed as though the board, in advance of the board members that voted against the policy, that they already knew how they were going to vote in advance. They just needed it to look like they were doing what was aligned with the public opinion, which was not the case, because there was also an article that was in New York Times that has a picture, and that picture speaks 1,000 words, because you see the parents wore white, or the public, I should say, the people who were coming out in support of the parental notification policy, they were wearing white for peace, because this was about love of children. This is about family. It was about, making sure that the decisions around, really important topics, that the parents are involved, and so, the picture in the New York Times, you can see just hundreds of parents, and then you see the group of the people who came to oppose, and it's much smaller. But 70 of the hour and a half that was given for public comment, 75 minutes of it was taken by the opposition to the policy. So it was as if they needed to line up these speakers in order to take up the time, so that they could look, when they voted against the policy, they could look like they were doing what was right. Yeah. I mean, I've read this policy numerous times, and it still blows my mind, because as a parent, these are the things that you think are going to be given to us automatically. If my child is talking about suicide, if my child is being bullied, if there's sexual harassment, those things now are denied. Correct? I mean, they did not pass the policy.
The argument of the people opposed to it said that there were already things in the Ed Code, I think, that covered that. But but there are other things that I think, because of legislation that's coming down from the state, that was why Lisa Davis wrote this policy, because there's so many things that are coming down from a state level, different legislation that are basically undermining parents' rights. And what I want to do in our podcast going forward is we'll touch on these individual topics. We'll touch on different policies that exist. But, starting at age 12, any parent right now, and this is really what I would encourage listeners to do. And when you share this with friends, like really encourage your friends, to do this. Like, if you don't believe me, we're going to show you the things to look at, the places to look, the thing. So one thing that we can all do right now to just like fact check, right, is if you have a 12-year-old child, you can try to get into their medical information, because the state of California at age 12 has now prevented parents. You have to, even if you're paying the premium, you're paying the premium for your child's insurance, and at 12 years old, they have to give you permission to see their medical information, which is, to me,
mind-blowing.
Right? Like, and that's why I was saying when we began, talking, like, it's just mind-blowing that we even have to have this conversation. But it is how it is.
That's where we're at.
Yes. And so, it's just, I just think it's so important that parents know, and if you're one of those naysayers or one of those people that are just saying like, oh, that's not true. I hear teachers doing that, oh, they're not doing that in the schools. Well, you can easily request public records. You can easily request curriculum. So, for example, some of the topics that are being taught at school, that now, start in kindergarten, some of the sex education and things that parents have had a problem with. You can go to the school and you can ask to see the books, and that would
that's an eye opener in itself.
Yes, and it's that all of that information, because they are public schools, it's available to you.
Right.
And so I think as a parent, you really have a responsibility to know what's going on. And I don't think that you can just kind of dismiss it out of hand and say it's not true if you haven't even looked. It is mind-blowing. It is unbelievable, but it is true.
It is true. And for those that are listening, I think most of the followers are coming from your fan base, from Moms on the Ground, all the work and the groundwork that you've done through the years. And now the next step is this podcast, which is going to bring more information, more specific information, more dialogue around what you have started through Instagram. And so we're going to post this information online so that you can read this particular policy, just so you can see how different it really was written versus how it was portrayed. And I think that that's the direction that we want to help take this, is just how to educate parents, where to look, what to know. If you didn't know it already, how to share the information. There's conversations with your friends, how to have these conversations with actual data.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
I mean, we're moms, we're not attorneys. This is a calling. Melissa, you've been at this for a really long time, talking at all kinds of events and pulling people together. I'm just a mom that's been concerned for a really long time and just looking for ways to get involved and help. And we're going to hope that we can do that together, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, because all of this is volunteer. And thank you really to all the moms who have contributed, like on these public records requests that I'm talking about. I have some amazing moms that are helping me get those records. And then, and reading through them. I mean, this is hundreds of emails that I'm reading and finding this information. But I want to teach parents. I want to teach people. We want to teach people. We're going to actually bring, one of the great moms who is just amazing, to teach people how to do that. I mentioned the friend that I had invited to come to the school board meeting, because some of this was around like gender identity. The people that showed up in opposition, they were talking a lot about like, this forced outing policy and their gender identity and all of this stuff. And so I had a friend come who is a brain health expert, as I mentioned, and, I want to have her on the podcast because there's so much that is, is not being considered, where, a 12-year-old kid, the brain is not fully developed, and your prefrontal cortex was responsible for your decision-making, for impulse control, which is why you can't get, why car insurance is so expensive until that prefrontal cortex is actually developed. It's not until age 25 or 26.
My husband's still working on his, so well, shout out to my husband. So yes, all of these things to come, and we're gonna cut right now. We're gonna say thank you guys for listening. Please check back. We'll be dropping more and more information and help other moms be able to find the information that we've found. And looking forward to bring experts your way.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.